It had been 5 months since Mary's daughter Anna announced her pregnancy. She and her husband, James, couldn't have been happier when they heard the news. They had both been tearful when Anna showed them the ultrasound. So when they found themselves in a situation they had never hoped to be in, James' words shocked them to their core. Mary had spent hours in the kitchen preparing a lovely meal, and they were just about to start on dessert when Anna doubled over in agony. Mary was instantly at her daughter's side and reached for her phone to call emergency services. "Don't call the ambulance," James bellowed. Before she knew it, James had snatched the phone from her grasp and thrown it away. Anna had always wished to become a mother. Even as a little girl, she had endlessly played with the baby doll Mary bought her when she was only 4 years old. When she became a teenager, she didn't take to going out to clubs and drinking each night. Instead, she studied hard, and when she was old enough, she got her first job at the local grocery store. It hadn't come as a surprise at all when Anna announced at 25 that she wanted a baby. Mary knew Anna had struggled the first few years. Her daughter had been in a relationship, but only after 2 years did her partner come clean about not having a wish for children so early in life. When they'd broken up, Anna had hardly wasted time before she'd asked her mother to help her find a fitting donor. A while into the program, when Anna had already been trying for several months, she called Mary one day, convinced she was pregnant. Days after that call, Mary and James had made preparations. They'd set up a savings account for their upcoming grandchild. 3 months into Anna's pregnancy, Mary and James had sat their daughter down for a serious intervention. Mary had made her voice as soft as possible and used gentle words to tell her daughter that going to a doctor for a pregnancy checkup was no longer just an option but a must. It was then that Anna had broken down into tears and told her parents the truth. She'd experienced a phantom pregnancy. The days after that revelation had been harrowing for everyone. Of course, it had been the worst for Anna, but Mary had mourned the idea of becoming a grandmother for a while as well. The surprise and happiness that had been felt when Anna came home with the ultrasound 5 months ago had been enough to heal the cracks in their hearts, which made James' words now even more shocking. Anna's cries filled the room. James stood firm, his voice cutting through the tension. "We're not calling an ambulance. We can handle this at home." Ignoring James' protests, Mary darted toward the phone, her resolve stealing with a swift movement. James yanked the phone from Mary's grasp, their eyes locking in a fierce standoff. "We're keeping this private." Clutching her stomach tightly, Anna looked directly at James, her eyes filled with tears. "Dad, please, I need help. It's too much to bear alone." Her voice broke with pain, pleading for understanding. James, standing rigid, watched her with a conflicted expression. His stance unmoving, James repeated firmly, "No ambulance." His voice was quiet but filled with conviction. Rebuffed by her father, Anna turned to her mother and brother for solace. "Mom, Jake, please, I can't handle this pain much longer," she whimpered, seeking their support. The tension in the room reached a boiling point as James continued to refuse any outside help. "We don't need anyone else," he repeated stubbornly. Mary's patience snapped. "How can you be so stubborn at a time like this?" She cried out, her voice thick with emotion. Stung by Mary's desperate plea, James swiftly pulled out his phone. His actions were quick and decisive as he tapped at the screen. A flicker of hope sparked in the eyes of the family. James pressed the phone to his ear, his voice a low murmur as he turned slightly away from them. His words were inaudible, but the act of dialing seemed to confirm their suspicion that he was calling for an ambulance. As James ended the call, he put his phone away and faced the family, his expression unreadable. He offered no explanation for the call, further straining the already tense atmosphere. With James' back turned, Mary leaned close to Jake, her voice urgent but low. "Call 911 now, Jake." Jake quickly keyed in the emergency number, his thumb hovering over the call button before pressing it decisively. His voice was a whisper as he spoke to the dispatcher, explaining the situation with urgency, while maintaining a watchful eye on his distracted father. Meanwhile, the family's anxiety grew as they awaited the arrival of help hidden from James's view. James finally ended his secretive call and returned to the room, seeming oblivious to the changed atmosphere and unaware that help was already on the way. As he rejoined the family, Mary and Jake exchanged a quick, significant look, their relief mixed with apprehension about how James would react once the ambulance arrived, disrupting his plans. As they talked, Anna's eyes rolled back and she collapsed suddenly, her body limp. Panic surged through the room. The earlier dispute seemed trivial now as James, Mary, and Jake stood around Anna, each feeling a mix of fear and urgency. James reached for Anna's hand, his touch gentle. "I'm here, Anna. You're going to be okay," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. Mary's patience snapped. "Step away from her, James," she demanded sharply. Despite Mary's command, James resisted, his voice rising. "I'm her father, and I have every right to be here for her," he asserted firmly, his stance unyielding. Just as the argument reached its peak, the unmistakable sound of sirens cut through the air, accompanied by flashing lights visible through the window. Upon hearing the sirens, James immediately turned his fury toward Mary and Jake. "You went behind my back." In the midst of the commotion, James' outburst continued, but his anger seemed to crumble into fear. "I was just trying to protect her from unnecessary risks," he confessed, his voice breaking. As the ambulance crew assessed Anna, another vehicle unexpectedly pulled into the driveway. Confusion spread among the family as they watched a second team step out. The family stood puzzled by this new development as the newcomers greeted the ambulance crew and quickly discussed Anna's condition. Among the newcomers was Anna's IVF doctor. He immediately stepped forward, coordinating with the emergency responders. Recognizing the doctor, James turned to his family. "This is Anna's IVF doctor, the one I've spoken with about the specific risks associated with her pregnancy," he explained. The family listened, bewildered but attentive, as James detailed the discussions he had about potential complications, emphasizing why he had been so protective and cautious. "The condition requires specialized care," one caregiver stated, outlining the necessary steps. They moved efficiently, checking Anna's vital signs and preparing their equipment while keeping the family informed. Their professionalism reassured the family, even amid the ongoing stress. With the medical team's explanations, James' earlier decisions began to make more sense to the family. Although shock and feelings of betrayal lingered, they started to see the complexities behind his actions, why he was trying to protect her from additional stress. James reiterated, his voice heavy with concern, "The condition is delicate, and I only wanted to ensure she was safe." The family, still recovering from the events, began to grapple with the nuances of his protective instincts.